Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Elevate Realty Training. This is our monthly webinar for all of you with 2% Realty and with 3% Realty. Remember, we've got agents joining us right across Canada and through many of our offices in the United States. Every month, I try to bring you a topic that's relevant to everybody and doesn't go too deep into anything that might be too jurisdictional, depending on the province or the state where you may be working. This month, our topic, the listing appointment, okay? This is core. This is integral to our business as agents, as realtors. In fact, to me, I think this may be the key moment where we are actually salespeople. I find so much in my job, people think that I'm a salesperson. I am very often a coach. I am very often a social worker. I am very often giving people all types of advice to get through the emotional tumult of one of the biggest transactions of their life. But in the listing appointment, that's when I'm actually a salesperson because I'm selling my services and I am closing. I want to make sure that when I'm in a listing appointment, that lead that's sitting across the kitchen table from me, that they are becoming my client. Okay. So what we're going to talk about today, maybe some strategies that I have, some strategies that I've seen other agents using. And at the end of the talk today, we've got about 30 minutes. At the end of the talk, those of you that want to stick around, we'll have an open mic where we can share our own success and maybe some of our own questions, some of our own little tricky things that we would like help with. Without further ado, the listing appointment, turning leads into clients. This is episode number 53 for those of you that have been following around. All of our episodes, remember, these are in your Google Drive. You have access to those, the same account that you log into for your 3% or your 2% Realty email. You can go in there to the drive where all the marketing materials are, and you can watch all of those past 53 episodes of this webinar, just about any topic now that you can imagine. All right. The listing appointment. Now, I'm going to talk about 4 key things that happen, I think, in a listing appointment. 2 of them, I think we all do really, really well. 2 of them, I think my own personal journey as an agent has taken me a little while to master, and I'm never quite there. I'm always learning. All right. 2 of the things that I think we all know we have to do, and we're probably doing a great job from great day one, and that's answering questions. How is this going to work? How am I going to sell my home? What is 3% Realty? What is 2% Realty? How does that work? Informing these leads, answering their questions. Okay, that's a key thing that I think we all know we're there. Communicating the benefits. Okay, what's the benefit of our model? You're going to save a lot of money. Okay, what's the number one benefit of our model? This is what I like to say, the number one benefit. You're getting a more experienced agent. Because with our particular model, our agents handle a much higher volume, much higher volume, you get a more experienced agent. Okay, that's what I think is one of the key benefits. Okay, these are the things we're communicating in a listing appointment, answering questions, communicating benefits. Here is where I think that for me, it's taken a while to realize this is where the sales part actually comes in. Okay, up until now, we're just communicating, creating an attachment to the service that I personally as an agent, that you personally as an agent provide. This is a key part of the sales process. They need to become attached to you. They need to become attached to your product. This is like if you're in the shopping mall and you find that pair of shoes that you absolutely have to have, okay? A pair of jeans that fits just right. You know that they're jeans, you know the color, you know they're in your size, but next comes the attachment. You have to want it. You have to say, this is something I really, really want. And the next step, you become committed. This is something I am. I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to pull out my credit card and I'm going to buy those shoes. Okay. So the attachment, the desire, I must have it. The commitment, I will have it. And the investment, that's pulling out my credit card, the action of making it happen. This, for those of you that have been following, maybe not just me, but other sales blogs, other sales webinars, those of you with some sales background, you may recognize this. This has been around for decades and decades and decades. Doesn't this look familiar? We've talked about this before, the IDA model. Okay, this is the psychology of selling. This is the sales funnel. This is what you're doing in a listing appointment, okay? Attention, awareness, okay? They're aware of 3% realty. They're aware of 2% realty, okay? You're going to fill them in, okay? As you give them the information, answer their questions. I like it. I like what I'm hearing, okay? Desire. When does desire happen? Desire happens when you show the benefits of your service and how they specifically relate to your prospect, to your lead in front of you. How is my service going to specifically help you in your scenario? Okay. Maybe you and your partner are splitting, you need to sell the house. You and your partner are splitting, you need to sell the house and buy two houses. Okay. You just got out of university and you need to buy your first condo. Okay. Whatever it is, how is all of this information applied specifically to you? When you answer those questions, desire grows, and that's the I want it, the desire in your client. This is the stage we need to remember when we're selling. We're going to move to I want it. And finally, the action, I'm getting it. I'm signing on the dotted line. Send me, Chris, send me the DocuSign. I'm ready to list this property. I'm ready to sign on with you as my buyer's agent. Okay. The sales funnel. Okay. And looking in our own industry, how we move through that funnel, specifically in the listing appointment. Let's get at it. How many of you think that you're really doing these last two really well? I know we're all doing these first two. I did these first two, and with the model being so great, I sold and sold and sold for probably my first decade before really thinking about how much I was doing in these next two things. Okay. Going to talk about how we focus on, that's the one, creating desire. How we focus on getting that commitment, that investment, that yes, this doesn't matter how many other realtors I interview, this is the one I'm going to go with. Okay. Before we start off, this is key to so many of the things. If any of you are new to listening to me, I do real estate in personally a very, very different way. You do not have to do things the way that I do them, but I want to show you as many options as possible. What this slide is called is different strokes for different folks. Thank you, AI, for the beautiful graphics. Okay. This is important because I've shadowed other agents and I've learned so much from shadowing other agents. If you have other agents in your office that you can shadow, that you can go with them to listing appointments, do it. Do it. Shadow agents with more experience than you, shadow agents that are your peers, shadow agents that are brand new. You would be surprised how many green agents just out of their newness, their greenness, can come up with ideas that are completely out of the box. And this has helped me so much, is always watching what other people are doing, thinking about it. Okay. And I'll give you as an example. I had a very close colleague of mine shadow me on a few listing appointments. And I can remember this clearly. This was years ago, and the absolute shock in my colleagues' face as we walked out of that listing appointment, where, I went about my normal ways and they just kind of sat back and watched. And one of the first things was, Chris, how long do you usually spend in a listing appointment? Okay. I'm going to leave that out there as a little bit of a mystery because we have a poll, but I know many agents, it's right across the board. How long does it even take? That's a mystery. And you could change it. You could make yours longer or shorter. And kind of narrowing in on this subject, I know a particular agent who one of their rules is they never sit down. That's how quick they are. And that's part of their strategy to be quick. Nothing wrong with that. I can tell you I am in a listing appointment long enough to sit down. Okay. But these are things you can do different. The level of dress. This is something that I was having a conversation with a colleague recently. Do you show up in a suit? I used to. I still do sometimes, depending on the level of property. Do I show up in t-shirt and sandals? No. I mean, there is a line somewhere, but a lot of it has to do with your own comfort, your own personal presentation and style, but it also has to do with the level of property that you're showing. Okay. So some different strokes for different folks, warming up, thinking about just all the different ways that a listing appointment could possibly go for you. Okay. Let's hit a poll. Let's find out what's going on right now with the people that we have, the participants. We got quite a few today. I'm going to start the poll, and it's the questions that we were just talking about. All right, the poll should be up. I'm going to know that it's up when I see answers start coming in. 3 questions. How long is your typical listing appointment? I want to know. I want to know. I know that I am outside of the norm, but are you 15 minutes, 30, an hour or more? Okay, I see some answers starting to come in. Good. The poll is working. An hour. Whoa. Maybe I'm not as unusual as I thought. Okay, over an hour, 0 for over an hour. All right, we've got lots of you in the webinar today, but I'm going to be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, I'm ending the poll. I'm sharing the results with you, okay? 15 minutes, we've got 0. I do know an agent, obviously not here today on the webinar. I do know an agent that never goes over 15 minutes. Nothing wrong with that, okay? Learn from different strategies. That's what we're here for today. 30 minutes, that's 42%, a little bit less than half. That's reasonable. An hour more or less. That's the vast majority of you out there. That seems to be the kind of Goldilocks, just right amount of time to be spending in a listing appointment to get that sales funnel done. I'll be honest with you, if I'm an hour, that's a good one. If I'm a little bit over, I'm often over an hour. My appointments are long. You don't have to do that. It's just the amount of things that come up and the natural conversation, which is one of the things I want to talk to you about, the natural conversation that often starts in my listing appointments. Okay. Going to stop that sharing. It's about 60-40, an hour to 30 minutes. Okay. Sharing those results. Stop sharing. Okay. Thanks for the participation there. Always fun to see what everybody else is doing. Again, if you've got other agents in your office, and if you're in an office, you're blessed to have 3 or 4 or 5, 6, even 40 other agents. Follow those other agents around. Just ask them, hey, can I shadow you? It always looks good when 2 agents show up instead of 1. So I think everybody should be happy to have another agent follow them and see what they do. All right. Pre-appointment. Before we get into the sales pitch, what are some of the things that we need to do to prepare? The first thing, it seems like every webinar I talk about this, so I'm just gonna say it one more time. Speed is key. I find all of my leads today are contacting multiple agents right away. They're not waiting until people don't get back to them. They're contacting 2 or 3. It's the first agent that gets the worm. It's the first agent. You got to answer your leads very quickly, within minutes. Okay. And you got to respond first, and you got to book that appointment first. That's the truth. I have responded very quickly to leads, and I have gone out there and done a listing appointment the same day. I've listed that property and had my client tell me that the other agents were just getting back to them as we were going into a conditional sale. Okay, so that's what being first looks like. Imagine that other guy. That's what being second looks like. The property's already sold when you're getting back to them. Be fast. Pre-qualify. Okay, let me know in the chat. Any of you do anything to pre-qualify your leads? Just about any other sales job, you're going to do some pre-qualification to make sure that you're not wasting your time with duds, okay? Any type of sales job, you're going to have people that are lonely. They want to chat. And I think we probably have less of this, but I'll be honest with you, in almost 20 years, there's been many, many times where I've had people call me out to their home to sit and have coffee in their kitchen at the table because they're lonely. And they'll call me out, and I'll come out once, twice. Third time they call, I'm like, something's going on here. They just like to chat with me. I don't think they're really about selling. Now, the nice thing about our particular product that we sell is that we have a very high price tag. And we just need one. We can spend that extra time, but if you do a little bit of pre-qualification, I find that you can weed out those few lonely people that just want to have a coffee, or maybe some of the weirdos that sometimes happens. All right, I'm going to share with you my level of pre-qualification. You can do more. You can do less. You may say, hey, I'm not doing anything. I want to go meet strangers. Chris, you said meeting strangers is my job. Okay, if you're not busy, go meet strangers. I'm going to talk a little bit about safety and maybe not meeting the really strange ones. Here's my level of pre-qualification. Okay. This is a lead gets to me and says, hey, can we talk about selling my home? Sure. Okay. What's the address? I'll meet you 2 o'clock tomorrow. Okay. That's the setup. Here's the qualification. These are the things that I ask. I want to keep it light. I don't want people feeling cornered where they want to slither out and be like, oh, this guy's too pushy. I don't know if I want him in my house. Okay. So you need a light touch here. Okay. All that I'm going to say is, hey, are you the owner on title? Okay. Is there somebody else? I want to know, because lots of times you can meet with the wife's on title, you meet with her, you have all of these great conversations about how great your services are, what you're going to do, what the property's worth, the next steps. What do we need to do to get that next step to happen? Oh, well, we got to talk about all of this all over again with my husband who's not here. Okay. Ask this question. It can save you a lot many, many times. Are you the only one on title? Are there other decision makers? Is it possible to have everybody there when I show up? Okay. It's in the beginning, it's just a light question. Are you the only one? If they're like, no, my wife too, is she going to be there? Okay. My husband as well. Is he going to be there? Okay. Second question. Do you live there? Do you have a tenant or is it vacant? Always ask this question. Always. I can't count how many times I get there and, oh, by the way, I've got a tenant in there. He's a bit of a hoarder. We're going into a really awkward appointment. 20 minutes with this other guy hovering around and not particularly happy that we're in his space. And this property is not going to be ready to list for 6 to 8 months. Okay. So find out what's going on. Are you living there? Is there a tenant? Or is it completely vacant and we are ready to get on the market? Good things to know. Okay. Once we know that, okay, you're living there. When and where? When are you thinking of moving and where? Okay. Nice, easy, like question. I'm not drilling for the answers here. Okay. Is there anything that has to happen before listing the home? Oh, yes, I'm in the middle of a renovation. Okay. Oh, yes, I'm moving cities in 3 months and I don't want to sell before then. Okay. These are the answers that might come up. There aren't necessarily good answers to these. Okay. Oftentimes I'll just get, oh, yeah, I'm the only one on title. I'm thinking of selling for this reason and blah, blah, blah. That's fine. But what you'll find is asking these questions, the really weird ones or the lonely ones, it'll become obvious that something's up. Okay. You may not get clear answers to all those questions, but you'll get a sense if there's something weird going on, I think. Okay. Other things, this is a neat trick. Whenever I'm going out to a listing appointment, I don't know, let me know in the chat if any of you do this. I will look and see, this is part of my research that I'm going to talk about. Has this property sold before on the MLS, right? I can search past sold properties. Hey, when's the last time this property sold? Oh, I can see that it sold 5 years ago. Okay. I will send them a link to that sold listing. That's when they bought it. And this blows them away. They think this is so neat. Here's my next message. Here's a link to the pictures when you bought the property. Has anything changed? And then they're eager. They click that link and they're like, oh, look at that. That's my house when I bought it 5 years ago. Yes, Chris, I put a new kitchen in. I did new bathrooms. These are good things to know going in. And I'll tell you, this is something that they find really neat, that they can see these pictures from years ago when they bought the property. So I do that. If I have access to a past listing, I just send them a link and say, hey, what's changed? Get some great info there. Okay, that's tip number 2. Third thing, this is my pre-qualification. Can you have on hand? Now, it's going to be a little bit different depending on your jurisdiction, what province, what state you're working in, deeds, titles. In my particular province, can you have a copy of your title on hand? Okay, this isn't a deal breaker. They say, I don't know where it is. That's okay. I can order a new one. It's $10 an Alberta. Okay, but if if you got a weirdo and it's not even their house, then they're going to be like, oh, this is getting too complicated to a key. I'm getting out. Okay. This is really good at weeding out the weirdos. Can you have, again, very Alberta specific, the property report that shows the property boundaries and where any buildings sit? Can you have that? It's great to have a look at that, have that on hand in the listing appointment. Can you have, and this is the big ask, you don't need a yes. You're just feeling them out. Can you have a spare key for the lockbox in case we're really ready to list? Okay. This is what I ask them every time. This is qualification. And I'll tell you, if they're weird, if they're like one of these ghosts, they disappear. Oh, this is too complicated. I'm not actually looking to list. Or another thing I sometimes do, this is experimental. Let me know in the chat if you've done this. If I got something and they're like, yeah, I got tenants for the next 6 months to a year, I just want to get a sense of the value. I might say, hey, that's great. I really want to meet with you. Why don't we do this over Zoom? I'll come out and do an in-person property evaluation as we get closer to your actual buying or selling horizon. In this case, your selling horizon. Okay. If I got a weirdo or I got somebody with a really long horizon, I might try and kick it into Zoom. Just an idea. Anybody, let me know in the chat. Anybody doing listing appointments in Zoom? I've done about 7 or 8 now, and it goes pretty well. All right, let's get to the meat of it. Let's get to on-site. But first, I just want to share a quick little thing. So many of us are using ShowingTime, such an innovation, ShowingTime, an appointment booking software. Most of us have that through our boards. If you don't have it, you probably have access to another safety app like this. But I just want to show you one of the features of ShowingTime that you may not be aware of, just since we're talking about creepy people that you might be meeting. Okay. Many of us know that there's something called Showing Beacon in ShowingTime, and you can get safety apps that are just for this if you don't have this through your board. Okay. But if you're using ShowingTime, you go into a showing and you can say, start a showing beacon at this property. And what that does is on the next screen, you put in a name and a number. This is somebody, your significant other, somebody that you trust. And then you set the timer. How long is your appointment? Okay. So for me, I might set it at an hour, 15 minutes. Okay. How long do you expect your appointment to be? That countdown starts going. And if you don't shut it off, in other words, maybe something's going wrong in this particular appointment that you're at. If you don't shut it off, or if you press the beacon, you press and hold that for 3 seconds. Okay. 2 things happen. You do nothing and the time runs out, or you press and hold that button. It's going to automatically send a message to your trusted contact that you put in there saying, hey, your friend Chris might need some help. Time has run out and we haven't heard from him. Try giving him a call. The neat thing it does is even if you're not in a showing, okay, even if you're not in a showing, which ShowingTime knows, you can be going to a listing appointment. This is what I'm not sure everybody knows. Just open up your ShowingTime and just say start showing beacon. You don't have to be actually doing a showing. Okay. And it'll allow you to put your contact name and number in. It'll allow you to set a timer. Okay. And then what it'll do, because it doesn't know, it'll send the GPS coordinates if this emergency message does go out because the timer hit 0 or you pressed and held that beacon. Then it'll send out your exact GPS location to your contact. They can call you, hey, he's not answering, time ran out. Okay, what's the next step? Have somebody that you've had a conversation with about what this is going to be for you. Just a little safety tip and another neat feature of a software that most of us are using right now. All right, let's get into the actual beef of the listing appointment, the tofu if you're vegetarian. Pre-appointment, the research. We've talked about this. Go look through the Google Drive at some of the statistics that you should be looking at for CMA. Okay, I'm going to quickly look at the comps before I go in. I'm going to figure out what the high point and the low point might be just in my head. Okay, I'm not always going to tell them, hey, this is the maximum you can list for. But I want to have a range in my head before I go into a listing appointment. I want to know the price trend for the area. Are prices going up? Are they starting to go down? What are the other trends? Are days on market going up or down? See, inventory, okay? This is how many months of inventory. Is that going up or down? Sometimes the price will be going up, but the inventory is going up, and that tells you things are about to turn. Okay, sometimes that inventory, seeing that trend, gives you a canary in a coal mine. Last but not least, one of the things I do research before I walk into a listing appointment, and if you have availability to the stats, most of us do. If nothing else, you probably have access to, if I looked at that last sold price for the property and it's within the last, say, 10 years, I'll sometimes say, hey, given that things have increased 71%, I'll try and find that number. How much has price increased since, for example, 2018 when you bought this property? That's a good number to know. It's a number that doesn't always match up with reality. But if it does, if it matches up with all of the other things that you're thinking, this is what this property is worth, you check and see, okay, let's punch in the appreciation and what you paid. Oh, that matches as well. Now you know ahead of time that when I'm talking about value and I say, oh, I think it's worth about this. And let me show you something. If we look at the stats, appreciation should have gone up 74%. What you paid was this. Oh, that's exactly what I think that you should be selling for too. It's just one more piece of evidence you can pile on top. Or if this stat is bonkers, which it will be sometimes, then you know, hey, I'm not going to talk about that stat. I'm not even going to go there. Okay. So good research to do ahead of time. If you're in Canada in one of the major cities, You actually have access to a tool that does this for you. I've talked about it before. I'm not going to go step by step through it. It's called the MLS Home Price Index. I believe you have something very similar in the States as well. You also have other indexes in the States, Case-Shiller. You have many, many indexes in the States and Canada. If you have access, learn how to use this tool, the Home Price Index. It does anything. Just plug in when you sold, what the price was. It'll tell you how much prices have gone up. Okay. Neat things. Yeah. Some of the materials you need to have going into a listing appointment, okay? Something I don't do, many people do, and we've had a revamp on these. We've got new presentation materials in the Google Drive, or for you to order printed. This is a really neat thing to leave behind, and you got to know if you're up against other agents, if you're doing a list appointment and other agents are coming in, hopefully after you because you've been fast, they're probably going to be leaving something fancy like this. So I'm starting to think, Chris, buy a whole bunch of these and start leaving these behind. Just something tangible to remind them, oh yeah, you know, I saw this guy from ABC Realty. I saw this guy from XYZ Realty. I saw this guy from Monkeys R Us. And oh yeah, I saw Chris. He was really good. Okay, something tangible to keep in their hand. I don't do it, but I recommend it. Something I should start doing. Order a bunch of these and leave them behind, okay? And we've got all of the information, like it keeps on selling after you've left, all the great stuff about 2% or 3% realty. Of course, this is in both flavors, depending on where you work. I shouldn't have to tell you this, but make sure that when you go in, you've got your business card with you, okay? And the one thing I do have, I always have, is a big version of this savings chart, okay? I always go into a listing appointment with at least a few of these in my briefcase. This I also call my mind reading machine. The reason why, the savings chart in a listing appointment, as soon as I sit down at the kitchen table with them, I slide this in front of them. The first thing they will do, and I tell you, it took me years before I realized this very subtle maneuver that solves all of the mystery of what they think their home is worth. Because you ask them, what do you think your home should sell for? I want to hear what you say first. Stick this in front of them and they will run their finger along, stop at what they think their home is worth and go across to see how much they will save. Okay, the mind reading machine, the sales chart. I have this in front of them the whole time that I'm sitting with them. Important to have. Okay. All right. The equipment that I have. I'm going to talk about something I do that I've not found a better way to do this, okay? I'm showing comparables live. When I'm in a listing appointment, I'm showing comparables live. So I'm sitting across from the lead with my laptop, kind of to the side, not blocking, not in between us, but they can't see the screen. What I have, I've been doing this for more than a decade. This is still my favorite method. I have this portable screen. It's very thin, fits in my briefcase. It could fit in like a pretty small bag. And what I love about this screen is it plugs in with USB here. It plugs in with USB into my laptop. And this is a second screen. It shows everything that's on my laptop screen. This goes in front of my client as I do my regular thing on the Realtor version of MLS, looking up comparables to show them live in real time. Okay, this is what it looks like when I'm in a meeting. One of these on Amazon, you're looking at about $300, okay? I have tried all different methods. I love this. I know some other agents, now that they've tried it, they love it. You might have another system that works well for you. I have tried iPad. That can work really great because you can still see all the pictures. I find sometimes I have to get, you know, with an iPad, you're sharing it. You kind of have to get a little bit cuddly sometimes with your client. I don't know if that helps or not. Even printing the comps, that's you got to have the comps there. So printing them, that still works. That still works if you've printed everything out ahead of time. You do need to keep a color printer though, because you got to show those pictures. So I find that this, of everything I've tried, including iPads, this works really great. First thing I do going into a listing appointment, I start with the tour. Okay. If you've never done this before, I went to real estate school. Nobody ever told me like, I knew all the rules, all the multiple choice, but show up at a listing appointment. What do you do? Nobody ever told me. Okay. First thing, open the door. Hi, I'm Chris. Hi, I'm Sally. I'm with 2% Realty. Let me put my stuff down in the kitchen. Okay. Mark your territory, take control. Let's start with a tour. Can you show me around? Okay. That's always how it goes. Let me know afterwards. I've never heard of another good way to run a listing appointment. You always start off with the tour, and the reason for that is because it's a great way to build rapport. Okay. You get right into, hey, let's look at the comps. Let me tell you what your place is worth. Let's sign on the dotted line. Like nothing else makes sense. First thing you want to do, walk around. You're gonna see pictures on the wall. Okay, you're gonna see where they've gone on vacation. Maybe they got kids or a dog. You're gonna find ways to relate to them and start building that rapport. As you walk around the house, you can demonstrate that you're an expert at real estate, the things that you know about real estate. You might be in the utility room. I see that you've upgraded to a high efficiency furnace. I see you have air conditioning. I see that your plumbing is PEX. I see, whatever your knowledge is, have some home knowledge that you can demonstrate. And as you walk through, you can make little recommendations. This room would show better if we got rid of this big old armchair, okay? But try to keep your compliments 2-to-1 with any recommendations. Okay, the tour. You're going to come out of the tour, you're going to be best buddies. That's the best way to start, I think. All right, now it gets real. Where do you sit down? For me, it's usually the kitchen table, the dining room table, okay? Now, this was a breakthrough for me in selling and doing my listing appointment, okay? Unlike right now, I'm not selling you too hard on something. One of the things that I had to, and I think many natural salespeople have to learn, is how to keep your mouth shut, okay? This is probably the key thing after the tour. My key philosophy, the one thing that I have written on the palm of my hand is like the notes that I need to remember is I always say ask and answer. I try not to like delve into let me tell you everything about 3% Realty. Let me tell you everything. There's a really great thing that happens when you sit down and you start with questions. If you can get into this great flow of you ask a question, they answer, they ask you a question, all of a sudden it's a conversation. And not just that, it's a conversation that's going to hit on all the most important points to them. Okay. If you just start spewing everything about real estate, and you've been doing this as long as I have, there's a lot. They're just going to be inundated with a lot that's irrelevant to them. Remember, we're trying to build that desire by showing them benefits specific to them. Okay. First thing I do when I sit down, start with a question. What's a good question? How did you hear about, in my case, how did you hear about 2% Realty? First question. They answer it. Great. That's good information for me to know. It's good for me to know where my leads are coming from. If they don't expand on it, then I'll say, instead of telling them, ask them, what is your understanding of how 2% works? And they'll say, oh, well, I think it's just 2%, isn't it? Or is it, and then they'll tell you, is it 2% for just the sell side or the buy side? Is it 3% flat? How? Then they're asking you some questions. I know this, but here's what I was wondering. Great. Now I'm going to answer that specific question. Okay. Now they're going to say something maybe that isn't quite right. And I want to say, well, actually, right now I can just tailor what they already know, just fill in the gaps, what they don't know. Okay. How did you hear about 3% Realty? How do you think it works? Okay. 2 quick questions, and that will open up a whole series of question and answer. Honestly, those 2 questions, and I don't even have a spiel or a script per se. Those 2 questions will open it all up to question and answer. Okay. A key question: how did you find us? What do you understand? How does it work? Ask them, how does this work, the commission? Why do you want to use 2% Realty? Ask them this. Let them tell you what's great about 3% Realty. Let them tell you what's great and what's important about it to them, okay? When it comes out of their mouth, That's just going to sink in. You want to talk about sales? If I sell you, if I tell you why you want this, that's one thing. If you tell me why you want my product, boom, that's magic. That's hypnotism. That is sales. Just ask them to do that. How does this work? Why do you want to use 2% Realty? This is magic, okay? This is spell work. This is Harry Potter. This is why you're here today. Ask these questions. Stick with me and tell me if you got a better way, but in 20 years, this is the magic, okay? Another magic question, okay? This should be like my book of spells. The next magic question, have you had past experience with real estate agents? Always ask this question. Such a great question. Have you sold a property before? What was your experience with that real estate agent? Don't skip this spell, because what they will start telling you is they're going to tell you everything that's going to rub them the wrong way, every pain point. Oh, you know what? It went 3 weeks and he never even called me. Ooh, okay, that's a sore point. I could do that, but I'm going to make sure I don't now that you've told me that. Okay. Find out all their sore points, but they could also tell you, you know what I really loved? When I was selling my home in, maybe it's some other place, or an agent that's still around, but they want to get the savings. This is what they did that I really loved. Okay. More terrific notes. Don't do this, do this. They've just given me crib notes on exactly how to be their best agent. Okay. Look at these 3 spells that I've given you. This is how my sit down starts. It doesn't start with me telling them all about my services. It starts with me asking them these 3 special questions. Okay. That's the whole thing. That's the whole part about the talk, the sale. Okay. That's the whole thing. One of the things that will often come up, we're having a great time at the end of this. They love 2% Realty. They love me. I'm going to be the best agent for them. Sometimes this question doesn't come up. Will other agents show the property? Okay. It's a key question that all of our leads have. If they don't ask you this question, I'll start probing them. Isn't there one more question you have for me? Okay, this question is always there. Don't let it go unanswered. If you let this question go unanswered, another realtor is going to come in behind you on the next appointment and say, oh, you know what? Yeah, that Chris guy, he's great. Everybody is charmed by him, but did you know no other agents show his property? So if this doesn't come up, this is one thing you got to make sure this question comes up. This is the one thing where if I've gone through all of this, we're all happy, I'll say, I think you meant to ask me this. Are other agents going to show the property? Of course they will. Of course they will, because other agents are working on commission. And if one of their buyers sends them a text that says, I want to see this house, they're going to say yes. Test it for yourself. Text any agent in the city, tell them you want to see one of my listings. They will say yes. Tell them you want to buy it and you want help writing an offer. They will say yes, because 1% of the typical home price in my particular jurisdiction is at least $5,000 or $6,000. Nobody gets out of bed, looks at their messages and says, no, I'm not up for that. I'm not up for spending, a few hours today to make $5,000 or $6,000. They'll all say yes. Okay. Cover that question, because you want to put the correct information in their head before somebody else fills in the blanks with something that's wrong. All right. What's next? What's next? Okay. We've done the tour. We're best buddies. They've told me all the great things about my business model, all the reasons why they want to use it, all their wish lists for how a real estate agent will do these things and not do these things. Okay. Next up, they're going to want to know, what is my home worth? Okay. This is kind of why I like having this thing, because now I'm just going to show them. You might do a printed CMA ahead of time. That's awesome. That's the right way. That's how they teach you. But I just say, hey, you know what? Let me just, what I would do in the office, let me just get on the realtor version of MLS. Let me just show you what's sold in the area. Okay. I'll tell you some hard-won wisdom about going over comps with leads. Let them lead. Don't let this ever become a confrontation. It's never about my number versus theirs. Okay. Here's how it goes. You live in X neighborhood. Okay. Huntington Hills. Okay. You're in a detached property. You have a single garage. Okay. I put in, here's the properties that have sold and are active and or conditionally sold in the past 90 days, just to start, or maybe whatever it takes to get like somewhere between 8 to 10 comparables up on the screen. Okay. We start looking through those. Okay. I let them lead. Okay. I let them say, oh, my home is much better than this. Okay. You'll hear that sometimes. I'll be just like, this is one of those. That's okay. Their home is going to be better than every single other home I show them. Let them go with that. I'm not there to convince them of anything. Okay. If I'm nudging them to do one thing, it's just to say, is there any of these properties that's maybe a little bit better than yours? A property that's a little bit better, so we know what might be too high. Is there a property that's just a little bit below, not close, but not quite as good as yours, so that we know what would be too low? Okay. I just want to find that bracket. I just want to know what would be too high for you, what would be too low, in your opinion. Okay. They're happy to tell you that when you're looking through these, as you go through. Here's one that sold yesterday. Here's one that sold a week ago. And they'll be like, not as good, not as good. Oh, that's pretty close, but still not as good. Oh, wow. Okay, that's better. Okay, that's all you're going to do. Bracket in their own words. That's all I want to do. I'll often set up an auto email at this point. Since I've already got the search, I'll just say, hey, I've shown you what sold in the last 90 days. Why don't I put your information in, your email, your name? Okay, I'll get their mobile number in my database at the same time. And then when something active sells, you're going to get an email right away. This is a great way to automate the follow-up. Okay, just another little tip. That's why I have so many names in my auto email on my particular board MLS system, because I'm always setting up auto emails. Great way to automatically follow up. Okay. Once we've gone through this and they have their own idea about what their property, what's too high, what's too low, they've got their own idea of the bracket. Now I'm going to introduce the concept of strategic pricing. Not even in relation to these numbers, just the concept that I want the highest price for your property, and I don't care what the list price is. And sometimes the list price is low to get a high sold price. Okay. We've got webinars on this. I'm not going to go deep into this, but threshold pricing strategy. Basically, the idea is, whether you're on MLS.com or MLS.ca, buyers are choosing their maximum price. They're clicking a dot that says show me new listings only. The lower you go in price, the more exposure you have. The more exposure you have, the more offers you have. And even if some of those offers are low balls, you will always have the one person who will pay more than anybody else. And the more competition they have, the more likely they are to go a little bit higher than what they might have otherwise. Okay. That's strategic pricing in a nutshell. That's all I want to do. I want them to look at the comps, get their own idea of their high and their low, and then introduce the concept that none of that matters. All we want to do is be strategic about price. From this list, what's a number that's low? Okay, I'm actually looking for a list price that's low. Okay, that's not hard to come up with. We may have different ideas about what your home is worth. We can probably agree on what's low. Okay, that's it. That's all we're going to talk about price right now. Now, we want to get into this. This is what I love about doing the on-site CMA. Okay. This is where we get into the hypnotism. This is where we get into the sales. This is where we get into the desire stage of the sales funnel. And I'm slowly easing into this just by showing them comparables. Okay. The reason I'm showing them comparables, they think, is to come up with what their home is worth. Actually, so I can show them comparisons of a lot of realtors, a lot of agents doing a bad job, and how I'm going to do a better job. Okay, this is how I'm illustrating the benefits of my service. Photos and marketing. As I go through these listings and show them photos, be like, wow, another listing with really terrible photos, right? Just as an aside, as we're looking through these comparables, let me show you an active listing of mine, okay? So I'll show them the comparables, then I'll be like, let me show you one of mine. Look how mine has a virtual tour. Look how mine has a floor plan. All of the things that we've talked about having better listings. I'll show them one of mine. Now I'm talking to them about the benefits that they will personally, specifically get from my services. A better listing that's gonna, in their eyes, sell faster and sell for more money, okay? This kind of intertwines with showing them the comparables, okay? Now I can just be like, oh, as an aside, let me show you how much better my listings are, okay? Negotiation strategy and listing strategy. As we go through these, I'll come across listings every time and I'll be like, look at this. They listed They listed at 476, but they sold for so much less, 428. Think of all the people who were searching up to 450 that didn't even know this property was on the market, didn't even know to make an offer, right? Wow, these guys really missed the boat and probably undersold the property. Okay. I showed this them on the way. Here, let me show you an example of somebody who did it right. Look how low they priced it, 675. Wow. That probably felt scary to the seller, but look at the payoff. They got they went so far over ask. As I'm looking through comparables, I can now educate them about how they don't need a high list price. They need a high sold price. Start showing them that correlation. Start getting them to trust me on this strategy. This is a benefit I'm going to bring to you. I'm not one of these agents making these mistakes. Okay. Your personal benefits, how you act as an agent, you're going to also intersperse what you do. I don't do it, but you might be, hey, let me show you how all of my listings are on social media. Let me show you how I'm constantly pumping up my properties on Insta, how I'm constantly sharing and getting likes on Facebook. That might be something that you share. Maybe you've been in the business a long time. You can be like, look how many thousands of properties I've sold. I have a lot of experience doing this. My process works, and I'm going to make sure that we don't hit any speed bumps along the way. Okay. Whatever is specific about why you're a great agent, this is the time where you're going to highlight that. This is where we're creating the desire. Remember that funnel. Desire comes right before the action that's tied up with investment and commitment. And that's the last step. That's what we're going to talk about is we've created all of this desire. I want this agent. I want this company to be my real estate agent. Now the closers. Okay. Don't leave without closing. I left without closing for years and years and years. I'll tell you just maybe some magic spells. Again, just some things you can try. A little bit gutsy, I know, but try these because they work so often, and I was shocked how often they work. We want to get that action. We want to get that commitment. We want to get that investment, okay? I know that they want my service now. We just need to take that next step where they've done something, and if somebody else comes along, they're like, oh, I didn't know that my nephew was a real estate agent. I'm already kind of invested. I've already done this with Chris, okay? An investment. I'm already kind of committed, okay? We need something to get investment commitment. That's closing. A very easy thing. Most of us, all of us in Canada need to do FINTRAC. For those of you in the States, this is Know Your Client, KYC. This is AML. This is your anti-money laundering. Okay, so FINTRAC in Canada, KYC, AML in the States. There's lots of really neat apps right now. I'm using in Canada, Really Trusted. And what you can do with this, I was going to have my ID handy for this to show you. What you can do if you don't know about this, all Canadian and American driver's licenses, they have this kind of QR looking barcode on the back. Okay. This is kind of a plain language QR code. There's so many apps out there that can read this, and then all of the information on the front of the license will just show up in your app. Okay. Now there's real estate specific ones. I use Really Trusted, and I can do my whole Know Your Client FINTRAC right in the app. It takes so much of the work of transcribing all of this information onto a form. Okay. Automates it. Really great automation. Okay. Another one in Canada, FinTracker. One in the States. There's many in the States. One called NameScan. I've also just used like apps out of the App Store that can just like scan and read, just so that I'm not writing all of this down. Then I can just copy and paste or SMS it. Just a really neat productivity hack for you there. But once you do that, this is a little bit of an ask. Hey, here's how it goes. Here's how everything else has happened. And I say, listen, thank you for having me. I'm not pressuring you to make a decision right now, but there's two things that I need to do in person if you decide to list your property with me. Okay. I need to check your ID in person. Okay. And I need to get a key from you. Okay. Since I'm here, instead of us scheduling another meeting when and if you decide you're ready, why don't I scan your ID? And if you're okay with it, get a key from you. Okay. My personal stats is I will get a key between 30 and 40% of the time. That's pretty great. Okay. If they say no, and it's like no, I'll say, okay, how about this? How about I put a lockbox on the door, and then if you decide that you're ready to list, I'll give you a code. You can open the lockbox, you can put the key inside, and then when I'm booking you the best photographer to do your real estate photos, we don't have to meet. You don't have to be there. The key's in the lockbox. We don't have to go through the whole finding a time that works for the photographer and you and for me, okay? Because the key's there, we can get things rolling very quickly. These are kind of big asks, but if you get them to scan their ID, then they feel like they've taken that first step with you. It creates commitment, okay? If you've got the key to their property, it's done. You're their agent, okay? And like I said, you learn to ask for that, you'll get it 30% of the time, okay? That's a closer, okay? And that's what we're here for. We're here to close. One other very key question that creates an emotional attachment, and we're just about done here. This is probably the fourth key question. It's all about questions. Okay, when you review this in your notes, I see some of you taking notes. You should have the key questions. I'd say you come away with one thing, it's the questions to ask. What will you do with the money that I save you? This is a closer at the end of your appointment. What will you do with the money that I save you? Okay. If they can't come up with anything, give them some ideas. Maybe you could take a nice vacation. I'm going to save you like $8,000. What could you do with $8,000? A nice vacation. Okay. Hockey's expensive for your kids, or maybe, put it towards their RESP, their education fund. The reason why we do this, okay, big savings are great, but what this is doing is it's creating an emotional attachment to using me as their realtor. Now there's something emotional for them, a new vacation, something to do with their kids, an emotional reason that if they think of going with another agent that's going to charge more commission, their heartstrings are just going to go, that doesn't feel right. Why am I giving that guy money instead of spending it on my family, instead of spending it on a vacation? Okay, this is creating commitment. That's a closer. Okay. Walk out the door. If you have nothing else, have an appointment for when the photographer is going to come by, or what is it that you're still waiting for? Okay. I'm still waiting to see if I get that job in Philadelphia and have to sell my house. Okay. Whatever it is, we need an appointment, or we need a day where I'm going to follow up with you and say, hey, did that thing happen? Okay. That's closing. That's what I got for you. All right, let me just do a quick recap. It's been a little bit longer than I planned on, but had so much to talk about. Pre-appointment, just go in there, be prepared, okay? Be very, very quick on site. First thing you're going to do is that tour. Think about if you want to get one of these second screens, if you can do it on an iPad, how are you going to show off how you do listings better? I think that's kind of a neat thing, is to be able to show in real time how your listings are better. In the talk, it's all about the questions. Okay. How did you hear about 2% Realty? How does 2% Realty work? Okay. What's your experience with agents in the past? Okay. 3 magic questions. At the end, you're going to ask the 4th magic question, which is, what will you do with the savings? Okay. Past agent experience. Very, very good information you'll get from that. Show them the benefits to using you as their agent. That's what's going to make them desire your service. Desire is what comes right before action and commitment. Okay. The closers scan their ID, get the key. Be brave. Ask for that key. It took me a lot of years before I started asking for the key. Okay. Leave there with something. Okay. Sometimes I'll leave with documents. I'll leave with their copy of the title or their copy of RPR. Hey, why don't I take this to the office and get a high resolution scan? Leave with some sort of commitment, if nothing else, with an appointment for when you're going to talk about their activator, what they're still waiting for, or an appointment for the photographer. All right. Thank you so much for joining me for what turned out to be actually a longer topic than I thought, but I hope there was something for everybody there. I'm going to turn off that cloud recording here, and we're going to have open session. If anybody has any burning questions, it can be about this. It can be about anything. Also, let me know if you have topics that you would like me to delve deep into. Always interested in new topics. All right. All right. Thanks so much.